Welcome to my YouTube channel, Your IT Learning. You can call me Mr. J. I have around 10 years of work experience, a decade, more than a decade, I will say, working as a business analyst, product owner, Scrum Master, and a QA. I started as a business analyst, but when you work as a business analyst, you have to put multiple hats. And that's how I ended up working as a Scrum Master, QA, and a product owner. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I will request you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get the notification for all the videos I will be posting. So let me present my screen so we can start talking about Scrum ceremonies over here. That's why we are here today. Last week, I said to everyone that I will be bringing a Scrum ceremonies video over here where I will describe about what the Scrum ceremonies are. There were a couple of feedbacks left, or I will say the comments leave from you valuable members of my YouTube channel. So I wanted to bring it back. So what are Scrum ceremonies? Okay, so before you come to any of the Scrum ceremonies, you have to understand that you will need your user stories to be complete. A user story is basically the BA who gather the requirements with the help of a business. We can call it a business, SME, which is subject matter expert, or we can call them the stakeholder. So till now, you are gathering the requirement, you created the user stories, you got the formal sign off from your stakeholder or SME or business. Then the first time you bring the user story in front of your team is sprint refinement meeting. Keep in mind, you are working on this user story for long, but the team will going to see this user story for the first time today. So they might have a lot of questions. Some of the questions you might be able to help, you might be able to answer. Maybe some of the questions you might have to go back to the business, but that's absolutely no problem at all. It happens. So what is sprint refinement meeting? So you bring the user story in front of your team. You describe what exactly the business is looking for. If the user story is complete, it goes to the grooming session. But take an example, if it's not complete, the developer says we need a mock-up or they have a question which you might be able to answer right now. But if you can't, then you have to go to the business and ask the question. But if your user story is complete, it passes the refinement, then it goes to the next session is the sprint grooming meeting. In sprint grooming meeting, we basically story point the user story. Okay, what is story points? Every user story is estimated. How much time will it take to complete a user story? That is called the story points. And story points are also needed to estimate. And also when the sprint planning meeting is happening, then every sprint has a velocity. So you need every user story to have a story point so you can estimate how many user stories need to be brought to the new sprint. So let me give you an example. So let's take an example. We are planning for sprint third. The sprint one happens, sprint two happens. The sprint one happens, has the velocity of 20 user story points. The sprint second happens, has the velocity of 22 user story points. Now you will going to average out 20 plus 22, which is 42, divided by 2 is 21. So you should bring 21 user story points for your next sprint. So here in the sprint grooming meeting, we make sure we provide and estimate the user story points to every user story. Now, this user story, after story point is given to that user story, is brought back to the product backlog and it sits there until the time comes that this user story needs to be done. Sprint planning meeting is basically to plan for the sprint, okay, the next sprint. So in this planning meeting, we bring the story point, user stories which are prioritized, which needs to be done for the next sprint. And now we try to, again, find out the velocity. Right now it's 21. So we bring the number of user story for which the total number of story points will be 21. So let me give an example. We have 4 user story points in our product backlog. One is 8 user story points. Another is 8 user story points, 4 user story points, 3 user story points. So 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 4 is 20, plus 3 is 23. So we'll bring 23 user story points. Basically, we need to bring around 21. If you can bring exact 21, awesome. But if you can bring 20, 21, 22, 23, we try to bring those user stories in the sprint that for the next sprint. So in planning session, We bring those user stories, we assign those user stories to the said developer. So when the sprint starts, every developer knows which user stories they are working on. Daily Scrum, it happens every day, normally 9 o'clock every morning. Over here, the entire team comes again, product owner, BA, Scrum Master, developer, lead developer, QA, and they basically answers three questions: what they did yesterday, what they will going to do today, and do they have any difficulties. Daily Scrum is a really great way for the entire team to come and discuss any questions, any queries. So it's a 15-minute session where you can ask any questions. If you don't have the questions, awesome. But it's in every morning, it's an opportunity for everyone to ask any questions to anyone. Maybe I'm finding any difficulties, so I can ask a Scrum Master. If I'm finding difficulties, developer is having some issue, they can ask another peer developer, or they can ask the lead developer. That doesn't mean that once the daily scrum is done, you can't ask questions. You can definitely, but in the morning, it's one meeting where you can ask any questions you need. If you have a question from previous inning where you were working late night and you said, okay, let me bring that question to the daily scrum. So sprint starts, when the sprint starts, it's basically 2 weeks of sprint. Developer starts working on the user stories. Once development is done, the QA tests it. Once the QA tests it, you also test it on a high level, because the second last meeting, which is sprint review or demo, is this meeting where you will provide the review or the demo of what feature has been done or what product has been created in front of the stakeholder, SMEs, or business. This is the place where you can show what has been done in the last week, what will have what exactly has been created. The last and the final meeting is the retro meeting. This is basically a review meeting of your entire team to understand what went well, what didn't went well. So you basically talk about what should we start doing, like do we have to improve something, what should we keep doing, basically something you started and it's going great, so you should keep doing, and what you should stop doing. So let me give you an example. In any scrum team, okay, once the sprint starts, the developer doesn't like any new work to be brought. Every new work, I mean the user stories, has to brought to the refinement, grooming, planning, and then it comes to the sprint. But take an example, if I'm a new guy, I'm new BA, and I brought the user stories, somehow was very small user stories. I know it was one user story point, and I brought straight away to the sprint. So when the sprint retro meeting will going to start, every developer will going to say, Jess, stop doing this. So they will going to tell me it's basically to review. It's not criticizing anyone. It's basically to sit together and to understand what are the things we should do to make our sprint or more smooth. Because at the end of the day, we have brought 21 user stories of velocity. Our velocity is 21 points. We brought 23 user story points in our sprint, and we want that to be done. So this is basically all the Scrum ceremonies we have. Thanks for watching my video. If you have not signed up, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please do subscribe. And thank you very much.